Seattle landlords face fines and deadlines over unauthorized homeless encampments. Meanwhile, the city itself has tents everywhere. They're stacked up everywhere. What's being done there? Well, they get to it when they can. Maybe. Some of these encampments have been there for months, if not years. City says, oh, we're going to get to them when we can. But landlords, oh yeah, you get a fine, you get reprimanded, you got to be on top of it. It's what we're doing in Seattle. Let's get into it. Here we go. Quick video with Andrea Suarez, We Heart Seattle. And Joel Moreno, Como.
This hefty mound of trash behind me, it used to be scattered all about the lot just above. Now, though, you can see it is bagged up and ready to be hauled away. Now, the property owner paid $2,000 just for this phase of the cleanup, and he faces additional fines from the city if the rest of the work doesn't get done fast enough. Cleanup crews with We Heart Seattle worked to remove the last of the trash that had collected on this lot after the property owner hired them to help out.
It's a hazardous waste site, and it affects the community, affects the restaurants, it affects the residents.
Used needles, furniture, even improvised weapons had to be cleared away, all left behind after police told a dozen homeless people they were trespassing on private property and had to go.
Look at that.
Managed to direct
Terrible.
services.
We're really working on getting more beds, more treatment beds. So I'm working with all the missions and the people here.
Complaints to the city included dumped trash and illegal fires. And that was just the start of the impacts on neighbors.
Who were having to look at this drug-related activity, all night screaming, garbage, the rats got out of hand.
Seattle responded with a notice of violation, ordering the site to be cleaned up and secured, or the landlord could face escalating fines of up to $500 per day.
We need to find a common ground, both in helping kind of fund these kinds of cleanups and helping really bring outreach to these private vacant lots as well, but give these owners a little bit more leeway.
A representative for the property owner told Como News they recognize the responsibility they have to maintain the space, but it will cost an additional $10,000 to deal with the damage caused by people who came in illegally and caused havoc while they stayed.
Thousands of dollars to restore a lot, abate the graffiti, abate the trash, help the homeless, costs thousands of dollars. Where are they supposed to come up with that kind of money?
Yeah, especially when you've got a vacant site that's not kicking off any income. It's basically costing you money in taxes. And now you got a bunch of people squatting on it. I mean, yeah, it's one of those, they just got to dig deep and, all right, it's an investment. Here, let's write a check for $10K to clean this bad boy up. And knowing full well that they're probably going to have to do it again, no matter what kind of fence they put up. They're going to have to do this again.
Back here live with another look at all this debris. I can tell you that delays can be granted on the fines if the property owner shows significant progress in addressing the complaints. But many tell us that it can take a lot of time to line up contractors to build a fence and install other security measures within the timelines that the city requires. Reporting live, Joel Moreno, Como News.
Joel.
Here's our second story.
Molly, it was the end of April when the bankruptcy of Joann Fabrics led to this location closing its doors for good. About 20 or so homeless people then moved into the parking lot, and that's when the property owner says his costs started mounting. Being out the rent that his tenant normally paid is bad enough for Sam Hawley, who owns this now vacant building in Seattle's Ballard neighborhood.
During a week in June, 15 or 20 people moved in the parking lot, and it was kind of chaos.
This is a look at the
Kinda.
after police passed most of those staying here illegally. Neighbors were especially concerned about the open drug use since it was just across the street from a children's playground. Holly says he was working to secure the property when it got overrun.
We were in the process of installing a fence. The posts were up, the concrete was drying, and that the fencing wasn't up yet.
All told, the new
Brutal.
cost the property owner $30,000. But before it was in place, a city inspector arrived and followed up with a notice of violation, as well as a fine just north of $680.
There was no forewarning. There was no offering of an attempt to fix it. It just started with fine.
Boom.
Hawley found himself automatically enrolled in the vacant building monitoring program and had to pay another $380, even though the violations had been addressed. He says he's just trying to get the building ready for the next tenant in a neighborhood where several properties are also for lease. He says,
Shocker.
This can't prove to be just the start of the problems.
It's tough. On one hand, you have the homeless. On the other hand, you have the city coming at you.
Well, the property owner says he is close to signing a lease with a new tenant, but wants to keep the specifics confidential until that deal is actually done. Reporting live, Joel Marino, Como News.
What we're looking at here is this is a playground. These are parents with their children. And if you look over the side, you've got homeless people whacked out of their mind on drugs, more than likely. And they're just, they've got a different agenda. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, little Johnny, don't look over there. Look at this. Literally, you got mom playing with kids, Cal Anderson Park, and then these folks. And yet the property owners, they're going to get fined. They're literally going to get fined. Oh, it's so. And here's Jonathan Cho. This is Capitol Hill, overrun.
Going to come and sweep everybody. Just want to know where we can bring you.
I started this about 5 weeks ago. I was like one of the first kids here.
They're going to sweep again pretty soon, I think.
They are. They do it at least once a week.
So why do you keep coming back here?
Because why not? They come, they sweep it, they clean it up, and then I know they don't like the sore in the eyes, Rude. But if we need each week progressively, we give more and more resources. More people are coming out.
It seems like everyone just moved.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
It's turned into a game of whack-a-mole.
So they're moving from place to place. And as you know, we have areas in the city that are containment zones, Capitol Hill, Belltown,
Chinatown,
the International District. That's right. And they're just moving around. Coalition of Quality of Life approached me to talk about a camping ban. And we filed it yesterday because residing on the sidewalk, whether they have a tent or not, needs to be against the law in the city of Seattle. Why? So we can move people to detox, shelter, and treatment. They need an intervention. No more just using drugs on the street, in front of the library, on our public streets, making it dangerous for the citizens. And then the person will have a choice. They can either do 90 days in jail, or they can go to detox, treatment, or shelter. And we have great organizations like Andrea, We Heart Seattle, Christine at The More We Love, who have beds ready.
What if the people don't want to go? Like this group here, none of them want to go. Hey,
That's why we have to make it a law and enforce the law. That's the problem with the city of Seattle. Lack of law enforcement law enforcement has been dismantled in our city. That's why we see this. And that's why citizens are threatened every day by criminal drug addicts on the street.
This is the massive conflict that we're seeing in Seattle, is that Seattle allows they've got containment zones. And by containment zones, we mean allow the homeless people to fornicate in public parks. And we just watched a video of that, Reddit. And that was posted a day ago. And that kind of thing goes on the regular. People who want to say that the homeless are just living their best lives. They got behind on rent. Nah, they're whacked out of their mind on drugs, and they are fornicating in parks with children literally feet away. That mom that we saw kind of on the left-hand side of the screen, how far away was she? Was she 30 feet? From a couple that's just going to Pound Town? Probably. That's normal. Imagine having your kid, a kid stray, and you're like, well, he was swinging in the swing set, and now he's overstanding, looking at those two people under the covers there. Imagine when they come out. I mean, little Johnny's sitting there going, this is weird. How shocking would that be? Shocking, right? Shocking. So, and that's a public park. It's a effing public park. Let's take a look at this story. This is the homeless camp takeover in Ballard. And Ballard, not a containment zone. Ballard has been kind of a free-for-all. I've covered a bunch of stuff there. So you got the Joann Fabrics. They went Banco. I actually enjoyed Joann Fabrics. I hate to say it, but they always had great material. If I needed something for my boat, or if I needed material for, one of my rafts, or just something ridiculous, you go into Joann Fabrics. I didn't know what I was doing there at all. because I don't really know how to sew, but it was a good resource for just ridiculous stuff that you're like, oh, I need that. So I probably go to that kind of store because I don't really know what I'm doing. So let's talk about the guy. The guy was with the blonde hair and the beard. People staying in the encampment generated a lot of complaints among neighbors, especially since there was open drug use directly across the street from a children's playground at Ballard Commons Park. Ballard Commons Park during the pandemic was absolutely loaded with shenanigans. I mean, it was on the regular. There were police calls. Much of the same of what we're used to. Holly called Seattle police and officers came down and trespassed the people who were illegally staying on the property. Holly then invested $30,000 in a new perimeter fence. Nothing like making your site look like a federal prison, right? $30,000 in a new perimeter fence, which is still being installed on the backside of the property, but then got a notice of violation from city inspectors. This was the first I had ever heard from them. There was no forewarning. There was no offering of an attempt to fix it. It just started with fines right away, Holly said. It's tough. On one hand, you have the homeless. On the other hand, you have the city coming at you. Meanwhile, in city parks, you got Pound Town from behind. Make that make sense. Hey, I'm willing to pay my fine, but what about those people having sex in the open at Cal Anderson Park they're homeless? What about them? Oh, they're okay. They're in a containment zone. It's okay. I mean, we're hoping they used a condom, but you can get on one of those meth benders and anything could happen. Anything could happen. The first fine was for $684.41. Seattle Department of Construction and Inspectors. I can't believe, I understand. They've got to drop the hammer. They've got to create some revenue. But for as long as the city of Seattle has had just encampment after encampment after encampment, I think until they get there, squared away, private property owners, unless it's a massive dereliction of responsibility, I'm not seeing it. You know what I mean? Property owners have a hard enough time trying to secure their property to the point where they can lease it out. So for having a secure building with violations, $684.41. Well, how secure was that park with the couple in there? How secure was that? Is that okay? Because last I heard with Pervert Park that, Pervert Park being another park in Seattle, Denny Blaine Park, it's okay to be nude in public. But you get into the sexually aggressive part, that's when it becomes a problem because you're violating state law. That's when it's an issue. And having sex in a public park, that would, I believe, trigger some, violations of the law. I'm just spitballing. I'm no police officer, but banging in a park, tricky, difficult to explain. Holly's property was then automatically enrolled in the vacant building monitoring program, and he was told to pay another $332. Good revenue stream for the city. They should have a banging in the park fee for those people, shouldn't they? We're onto something there. They should have a $5 per day for the homeless and just charge them. Right? And then use that money to clean up. Despite being in compliance at that point. It's frustrating because I've been down here 5 or 6 days a week since Joanne moved out, except for that 1 week when I was gone for 3 days and all those people moved in. That's how quickly it happens. It goes just like that. Boom. And people come in. You heard Jonathan Cho talking about the whack-a-mole, and they are moving between Capitol Hill. They are moving between Capitol Hill being to the east of downtown Seattle. They're moving to Belltown, Helltown, where we had the Belltown Hellcat. Belltown has become game on for the homeless, just not good. And then you've got the International District, Chinese, International District that has just been overrun with this kind of stuff. I mean, terrible, terrible, terrible for that community, for businesses trying to make a go of it. Horrific. Seattle has been in complete dereliction of enforcing the law there because they got to have a few communities where all these whacked out nut jobs on drugs having sex in the park live in the park. I understand addressing vacant buildings. I think this is a little bit overboard. Okay, I do too. But, this is news for reasonable people. It's not news for morons. So, Seattle at least doing something. But again, what I would say is, who cast the first stone? What was that one? Whoever's innocent can cast the first stone. Don't look at the splinter when you got a boulder in your eye. You know what I'm saying? It took time to line up contractors to install the fence and repaint the building to remove graffiti, Holly said, but city policies didn't take that into consideration. It would just be nice to have a little grace period. Spokesperson for Seattle Department of whatever said there are opportunities to a notice of violation and request a director's review, but the owner did not do so on this site. Hawley said he did email the inspector about the fine, but never received a reply or an acknowledgement. Weird. This is Seattle. More concerned about allowing people to bang in the park than business owners actually trying to hold their property together to get it to the point where they can lease it out. I get that. And the other property that we saw with Andrea Suarez, it's a vacant property, and these homeless people, because they are scoping things out. They are literally scoping things out on the regular, and they will take every opportunity of every little nook and cranny to live because they know that is an area where they can go. And they're just going to get moved around. They get moved from Belltown. They get moved to Capitol Hill. And these are only a few miles apart. And then you've got further east, you've got the Chinese International District, just the International District, that has been just absolutely run over. And you've got 12th and Jackson that I talk a lot about. And that is the intersection where probably some of the most violence has happened in Seattle in a long time. And it's because it's an open air drug center, open air drugs, you name it, you can get it there. Stolen goods, because you got to be able to pay for the drugs, and you got the human trafficking, then you got it all. It's all right there in the International District. Hey, great. And so they're rotating between those neighborhoods because a lot of other neighborhoods have been cleaned up, and they're basically stating, well, we can't have you here. You got to go over there. Because at the end of the day, Seattle and most other big blue cities don't have the resources to put everybody into treatment, to put everybody into detox, to put everybody into housing, to put everybody into mental health care situation, because that's what a lot of these folks need, or put them in jail. We're not doing that. We're not putting the most aggressive violators of the law, people actually hammering on ICE, federal law enforcement. We're not prosecuting and incarcerating those people. So why would we think that we'd prosecute people living on the streets having sex in Cal Anderson Park? That's not going to happen. But go ahead and find the business owner because he's got money. There's money there for revenue. Let's do it. It's Freaddle. We got to pay for all these programs because guess what? We got a little budget problem going on, and we've got bad decisions being made by city council, and this is where we're going to go. So get out that popcorn. It's going to be great because this ain't going away, and you don't have any solutions being created by reasonable people in Seattle right now. Now, you've got some. You got Andrea Suarez. You've got some, some folks, but they are drowned out in a sea of people who are okay with having a couple under blankets middle of the day while little Johnny and little Susie play on the merry-go-round. Do they even have those anymore? Is that even a thing? Probably not, because probably a safety issue, right? Swing set. Yeah, that can't be safe either, right? Hey, let's swing up as high as we can and bail out and see how this goes. One broken ankle coming up. All right. That's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.